It's not a gift. It is a record. It is the accumulation of evidence you have gathered about yourself over years, one small proof at a time. And that changes everything, because a record can be built. A record can be rewritten. If confidence is evidence, then you are the one who decides what evidence gets entered. Here's the truth. Your brain is keeping a file on you. Every time you say, you'll do something, and then do it, that goes in the file. Every time you say you'll do something and then don't, that goes in the file too. And over a lifetime, that file becomes the source of what you call self-confidence, or the lack of it. So the person who has broken 1,000 promises to themselves does not trust themselves. Of course they don't. They have the evidence. They have watched themselves quit, delay, and back out 1,000 times. Why would they believe the next promise? Today I want to talk about 10 small wins that rewire that file. Not big, dramatic, life-changing victories, small ones. The kind that seem too minor to matter. Because the size of the win is not what rewires confidence. The repetition of keeping your word to yourself is what rewires it. Most people are waiting for the big win to feel confident. They think confidence will arrive after the promotion, after the transformation, after the moment when everything finally comes together. And so they wait. And the waiting is the mistake, because confidence is not built by the big win. It is built by the small ones, repeated until the file changes. Now, before we get into the list, you have to understand why the small wins work when the big goals don't. Because most people set enormous goals, fail to reach them, and add another entry to the file that says, I don't follow through. The big goal missed does more damage to your confidence than no goal at all. Because now you have proof, fresh proof, that you say big things and don't deliver. Listen, you cannot build self-trust on a foundation of broken commitments, no matter how noble the commitments were. The brain doesn't grade on intention, it grades on completion. You see, the brain is looking for a pattern. It wants to know one thing about you. When this person says they will do something, do they do it? That is the only question that matters for confidence. And the small win answers that question in the affirmative over and over until the brain has no choice but to update its story about who you are. A small win is a promise you can actually keep. That is its entire power. You said you'd make the bed, and you made the bed. You said you'd take the walk, and you took the walk. Small. Almost nothing. But the file just recorded, this person keeps their word. And here's what most people don't realize. The brain does not distinguish between a small, kept promise and a large one when it comes to trust. Both go in the same column. Both say the same thing. This person does what they say. So the fastest way to build confidence is not to attempt something enormous. It is to keep a chain of tiny promises so consistently that the brain stops doubting you. The person who has kept 100 small promises walks differently than the person who has broken 100 big ones. Not because they've accomplished more in the eyes of the world, but because they've accumulated more evidence in the file that actually governs how they feel about themselves. So if you have spent years setting goals you didn't reach, making resolutions you didn't keep, declaring intentions you didn't act on, that history is exactly why you don't trust yourself now. Every abandoned goal was a deposit in the account of self-doubt. The good news is the same account can be filled the other way. Small deposit by small deposit. Kept promise by kept promise. Until one day you look up and realize you have become somebody who trusts their own word again. You must take this seriously. Confidence is not found. It is not summoned. It is not waited for. It is built one small win at a time by a person who has decided to stop breaking promises to themselves. Starting now, number one, you must make your bed the moment you get up. I know how small that sounds. I know it sounds almost too trivial to belong on a list about confidence. But that is exactly why it works. Because the very first thing you do in the morning sets the tone for everything that follows. Here's the truth. The first decision of the day is a signal to yourself about what kind of day you're going to have. When you make the bed, you have completed a task before the day has even properly begun. You have entered the file's first entry of the day, and it says, this person finishes what they start. That signal travels forward. It makes the next task easier to begin because you're already somebody who's completed something today. When you leave the bed unmade, you have also sent a signal. It says, the standard here is good enough. It says, we let small things slide. And the brain, watching, files that away too. And it carries that standard into the next decision and the next until the whole day is being run by the standard you set in the first 30 seconds. You come home at the end of the day and the made bed is waiting for you. It is a small piece of evidence that the morning version of you kept a promise to the evening version of you. You did something this morning for the person you'd be tonight. That is what a small win does. Start here. Not because a made bed changes your life. It doesn't. But because it is the smallest possible promise you can keep, and keeping it every single morning begins to rewire the file. One completed task before the day begins. One vote for the person who finishes what they start. Next. You got to finish one thing you've been putting off. Not the whole list, not everything you've been avoiding. One thing. The one small task that has been sitting on your mental shelf for weeks, quietly draining you every time you think about it. Because the unfinished task is not just sitting there. It is charging you rent. Every time it crosses your mind, it costs you a little energy, a little confidence, a little self-respect. And you've been paying that rent for weeks without realizing it. Here's the truth. The tasks you avoid are almost never as large as the avoidance makes them feel. The phone call you've been dreading takes 4 minutes. The email you keep postponing takes 6. The form, the errand, the small repair, the actual doing of it is a fraction of the energy you've spent avoiding it. When you finally do the thing, something releases. The rent stops. The energy you were spending to keep the task at bay comes back to you. And into the file goes another entry. This person handles what needs handling. You see, the person who avoids has trained their brain to expect avoidance. Every unfinished task confirms the story. I'm the kind of person who lets things pile up. And that story follows you into every new obligation, making each one feel heavier than it is. The person who clears one avoided task teaches their brain the opposite. They teach it. When this person decides to handle something, they handle it. And that lesson makes the next avoided task easier to face. Because you're no longer somebody who avoids. You're somebody who clears things out. Pick one. Today, the smallest one, if that's what it takes to get started. Do it now, before the resistance has time to dress itself up as a reason. And when it's done, notice how you feel. That feeling is the file updating. That feeling is confidence being deposited. Next. Stop saying, I'll start tomorrow, and do the first repetition today. Whatever it is you keep meaning to begin, the exercise, the reading, the practice, the saving. You don't need to do all of it. You need to do one repetition today badly. Here's the truth. The gap between the person who wants to do something and the person who does it is crossed by the first repetition, not the 100th. And the first repetition is almost always small enough to be laughable. One push-up, one page, $1 into the account, 1 minute of practice. The size doesn't matter. What matters is that you moved from intention to action, and the file recorded the crossing. When you do the first repetition, you become, in that moment, a person who does the thing, not a person who wants to, not a person who's going to, a person who does. And that identity, once established, even in the smallest way, wants to be repeated. Because now you have evidence that you're the kind of person who begins. You see, most people never start because they're waiting to feel ready or to have time or to be able to do it properly. And so they never enter the file's first line of evidence that they're capable of it at all. They stay forever on the side of intention. The person who does one push-up today has crossed a line the person who plans to do 50 tomorrow has not crossed. The one push-up is real. The 50 are fiction until the first one is done. And confidence is built only on the real, never on the fiction. Do the first repetition now, not the whole workout. The first push-up, not the whole book. The first page, whatever the thing is, find its smallest starting piece and do that piece today. Then the file has a new line in it, and the line says, this person started. Next. You have to keep one promise you made to another person, no matter how small. The lunch you said you'd show up for. The favor you said you'd do. The thing you said you'd send. Because the promises you keep to others are quietly training your brain about whether your word means anything. Here's the truth. Every time you break even a small commitment to another person, your brain notices. It doesn't matter that they forgave you. It doesn't matter that it wasn't a big deal to them. It was noticed by the one observer who never stops watching, you. And that observer is building the file. When you cancel, delay, and flake, the file records, this person's word is soft. And a person whose word is soft cannot fully trust themselves because they have watched themselves not mean what they say. When you keep the small promise, even when it's inconvenient, even when you'd rather not, the file records something powerful. This person's word is solid, and you carry that recording into every future commitment, including the ones you make only to yourself. You see, there is no separate account for promises to others and promises to yourself. It is one account. The reliability you build with other people is the same reliability you draw on when you promise yourself something. Break your word to them, and you erode your ability to keep your word to you. The people who trust themselves are, almost always, the people who follow through with others. Not perfectly, but reliably. When they say they'll be there, they're there. When they say they'll do it, it gets done. And all of that follow-through is deposited in the one account that governs self-trust. Keep one small promise today that you'd normally let slide. Show up when you'd rather not. Send the thing you said you'd send. Do the favor you committed to. And notice that you're not just being reliable for them. You're building the evidence that you're a person of your word. Next, drop one thing you've been complaining about and take a single action on it instead. There's something in your life you've been complaining about for months, maybe years. The complaint has become a habit, a groove, a thing you say without even hearing yourself say it. Here's the truth. Complaint is the opposite of confidence, because complaint is a declaration that the situation is happening to you and you are powerless in front of it. Every complaint is a small vote for your own helplessness. And the brain, listening, files that vote away. It records This person is a victim of their circumstances. And a person who believes they're a victim of their circumstances does not feel confident because they've told themselves repeatedly that they can't affect their own life. When you take even one small action on the thing you've been complaining about, you flip the story. You stop being the person things happen to and become the person who does something about it. The action can be tiny. One phone call about the problem, one small step toward fixing it, one thing that moves the situation an inch. You see, the size of the action is almost irrelevant. What matters is that you've transferred yourself from the passive column to the active column. You've told your brain, I am not helpless here. And that single message does more for your confidence than 100 complaints ever could. Pick the complaint you say most often, the one that's become background noise in your life. And instead of saying it one more time, take one action on it today, a small one. Then notice how the complaint loosens its grip, because you've reminded yourself and your brain that you're a person who acts, not just a person who talks. Next, you must give one honest compliment to another person and mean it. This one seems to have nothing to do with your own confidence. It seems to be about them, but it is not. It is about the kind of person you're training yourself to be. Because the person who cannot acknowledge another's strength is usually the person who feels threatened by it. And feeling threatened by other people's strengths is a symptom of low confidence, not a cause of it. Here's the truth. When you're secure in yourself, another person's excellence does not diminish you. You can see it clearly, name it freely, and celebrate it without cost. But when you're insecure, every compliment to another person feels like a subtraction from you. So you withhold, you stay quiet, you let the good thing about them go unspoken. When you give a genuine compliment, you're practicing a kind of security. You're telling your brain, I can acknowledge what's good in others without losing anything. And that practice, repeated, builds a quiet, stable confidence that doesn't need to shrink other people to feel large. You see, the most confident people are almost always generous with their praise. They notice what others do well and they say it, not to flatter, not to manipulate, but because they're secure enough to see excellence clearly and name it without fear. And there's a second effect. When you give honest praise, people are drawn to you. Relationships strengthen. And the warmth that comes back to you is itself a deposit in your confidence, because you become somebody whose presence people value. A person surrounded by warm relationships stands on firmer ground than a person who guards their praise like it costs them something. Give one real compliment today. Not the easy automatic kind, the specific kind about something you actually noticed and admire. Say it out loud to their face and mean it. And notice that being able to do that freely is itself a sign of a confidence you're building. Next, you got to do one hard thing before you do the easy things. Every day presents you with a choice about order. You can do the difficult, uncomfortable task first while your energy and will are strongest. Or you can drift toward the easy, pleasant things and leave the hard one for later that often never comes. Here's what I learned in my early days. The order in which you do things is teaching your brain something about who's in charge. When you do the easy things first and the hard thing last, you're telling your brain that comfort leads and difficulty follows. That the pleasant thing gets priority and the important thing waits. And by the time you get to the hard thing, if you get to it at all, your energy is depleted and your resolve is thin. So the hard thing gets done poorly or gets pushed to tomorrow, and the file record's another delay. When you do the hard thing first, everything changes. You've told your brain that you're the one who decides, not your comfort. You've spent your strongest energy on your most important task. And the rest of the day feels lighter because the thing you were dreading is already behind you. You see, the person who tackles the hard thing first walks through their day with a particular kind of confidence. They know the worst is done. They know they faced the difficult thing when it was hardest to face, and they did it anyway. That knowledge sits underneath everything else they do that day. And the file records the most important entry of all. This person does the hard thing, even when the easy thing is right there. That entry, repeated day after day, builds a confidence that nothing else can build. Because you've proven to yourself that you can override your own resistance. And a person who can override their own resistance can do almost anything. Identify the hardest thing on your list today, the one you'd naturally save for last. Do it first. Before the emails, before the easy tasks, before the comfortable busy work. Face it while you're strongest and carry the rest of the day on the confidence of having already done the thing you feared. Next, you have to sit with one uncomfortable feeling without reaching for a distraction. There is a moment many times a day when a difficult feeling arises. Boredom, anxiety, loneliness, restlessness. And your immediate reflex is to escape it, to reach for something that will make the feeling go away. The person who cannot tolerate their own discomfort is at the mercy of it. Every time an uncomfortable feeling drives you to reach for an escape, you've confirmed to yourself that you can't handle the feeling on your own. And a person who believes they can't handle their own feelings does not feel confident, because they've made themselves dependent on distraction for their basic stability. I once knew a young man who could not be alone with himself for more than a minute. The instant a hard feeling appeared, he ran from it. He filled every quiet moment. He never let a difficult emotion sit. And he wondered why he felt so fragile, why the smallest stresses seemed to overwhelm him. What he had never done was give himself the experience of feeling something hard and surviving it. He had no evidence in his file that he could sit with discomfort and come out the other side. So every uncomfortable feeling seemed like an emergency, because he'd never proven to himself it wasn't. Then he began deliberately to sit still with the hard feelings. When the restlessness came, he stayed. When the anxiety rose, he breathed and waited. He didn't escape. He let the feeling arrive, crest, and pass. And every time it passed on its own, he learned something. The feeling was survivable. He was bigger than it. He didn't need the escape. Over time, this changed him more than almost anything else he did, because he had built, feeling by feeling, the evidence that he could handle his own inner life. And a person who can handle their own inner life is grounded in a way that no external circumstance can shake. The file recorded, again and again, this person can sit with hard things. And that recording became the bedrock of a confidence that didn't depend on everything going well. It depended only on his proven ability to withstand the moments when things didn't. The next time an uncomfortable feeling arises and you reach for the escape, stop. Sit with it instead for 1 minute. Let it be there without running and watch it pass on its own. That is the smallest, quietest win on this list, and it may be the most powerful. Next, you must speak up once when you'd normally stay silent. In the meeting, in the conversation, in the room where you have an opinion. But the easier thing is to keep it to yourself. The moment comes, and you feel the pull to shrink, and you take it. Here's the truth. Every time you stay silent when you have something to say, you're telling your brain that your voice doesn't matter enough to use. And the brain records that. It files away. This person's thoughts aren't worth sharing. And a person who believes their thoughts aren't worth sharing carries that belief into every room they enter. The silence feels safe. It feels like the low-risk option. But the cost is invisible and enormous. Because each swallowed thought is a small vote for your own irrelevance, and the votes add up into a person who barely speaks and barely feels seen. When you speak up, even once, even imperfectly, you flip the vote. You tell your brain, my voice belongs in this room. My thoughts are worth the air it takes to say them. And that message, delivered even in a small comment, begins to rewire how you carry yourself in front of others. You see, the people who seem naturally confident in rooms are not necessarily smarter or more capable than the people who stay silent. They've simply built the habit of using their voice, and the habit has become evidence. They speak, therefore they're the kind of person who speaks. It's circular and it works. And here's what most people don't expect. The world does not punish you for speaking up nearly as much as your fear predicts. Most of the time, the comment lands fine. The opinion is received. The contribution is welcome. And each time that happens, the fear that kept you silent loses a little of its authority over you. Speak up once today when you'd normally stay quiet. Offer the opinion. Ask the question. Say the thing you'd usually swallow. It doesn't have to be brilliant. It just has to be spoken. And notice that using your voice even once changes how it feels to have one. Next, you have to keep a promise to your body that your comfort wants you to break. The walk you said you'd take when it's cold outside. The early nights you promised yourself when you'd rather stay up. The good meal when the easy one is closer. Because the way you treat your body is a constant conversation with your brain about whether your own well-being is worth honoring. Here's the truth. Every time you break a promise to your own body for the sake of momentary comfort, you're telling your brain that your long-term well-being ranks below your immediate ease, and the brain files that ranking away. It records this person's future self doesn't get priority. And that recording seeps into how you treat yourself in every domain, not just the physical one. When you keep the promise to your body, you take the walk in the cold, you go to bed when you said you would, you choose the meal that serves you. You tell your brain the opposite. You say, my future self matters enough to sacrifice for. And that message builds a specific kind of confidence. The confidence of a person who knows they'll take care of themselves. You see, there's a deep security in knowing that the person in charge of your life, which is you, has your back. That when comfort pulls one way and your well-being pulls the other, you can be trusted to honor your well-being. That security is worth more than almost anything. And it's built one kept promise to your body at a time. And the physical result compounds. The walks accumulate into fitness. The early nights accumulate into rest. The good meals accumulate into health. And a body that's cared for carries a mind that's more confident because you feel capable in your own frame. The physical evidence and the psychological evidence build the same file from two directions at once. Keep one promise to your body today that your comfort wants you to break. Take the walk. Choose the rest. Eat the thing that serves you. Not because it transforms you overnight, but because it tells your brain one more time that your future self is worth protecting. And a person who protects their future self walks through the world with quiet confidence. So here's what I want you to carry with you. 10 small wins that rewire your confidence. None of them are dramatic. None of them will impress anyone watching. All of them enter evidence into the file that governs whether you trust yourself. Make the bed. Finish one avoided thing. Do the first repetition today. Keep one small promise to another person. Take action on one complaint. Give one honest compliment. Do the hard thing first. Sit with one uncomfortable feeling. Speak up once. Keep one promise to your body. Every one of those is a small deposit in the account of self-trust. Not because the actions are impressive, but because the brain catalogs what you do and builds your confidence around the pattern of kept promises. You keep your word to yourself in small ways again and again, and then one day you realize you've become somebody who trusts their own word. And that person carries themselves differently than the person who's been breaking promises for years. I'm telling you, the confidence you've been waiting for is not going to arrive from some big external victory. It is built from the inside, one small kept promise at a time. You don't have to do anything heroic. You don't have to transform your whole life this week. You just have to keep a chain of small promises so consistently that your brain has no choice but to update its story about who you are. Pick 3 from this list, just 3. The 3 that feel most within reach. Do them every single day. Keep the chain unbroken and let the file record day after day that you are a person who does what they say. Do that for 60 days and you will notice something has shifted underneath you, because the evidence you've been depositing has finally outweighed the evidence of all those broken promises from before. The version of you in 5 years who has kept 10,000 small promises is going to be living a different life. Not because any single one of those wins mattered on its own, but because the accumulation of them rebuilt the foundation of self-trust that everything else stands on. And a person who trusts themselves attempts things the doubtful version never would. Keep the small promises. Watch the confidence follow. You must trust that the change is bigger than it looks, because most people are still waiting for the big win, and most people are still waiting.